Hey guys, Chris Clothier here on the next episode of the Grind Podcast, coming to you live from Memphis, Tennessee at my tiny desk. Yes, that's right. It is not replaced yet, but I'm working on it. Don't worry. We've got a new desk coming. We're not going to go back through that whole tiny desk again. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back and listen to the last episode. Or better yet, watch it on YouTube, because then you can get the full visual and see what the heck it is I'm sitting at right now. Just the same, this is a new episode. And I thought it was very apropos that we record this right now. Most of you are getting used to, or you should be getting used to now, the fact that there's a team of people that actually make this happen. And I'm only like the as they like to say, I'm the talent. And they are the brains and the brawn behind this. I'm just the one that has to go make it happen. But without them, this is impossible. And so one of the recent episodes was talking about the fact that I live in a world of chaos. I thrive in it. I like it. This is kind of the way that I like to operate. One of the things I discussed on that was kind of my take on meetings and my take on time. And I'm very different than my dad. I'm probably very different than my brother. Heck, I'm very different than my son. My 15-year-old son is all about, look, I do not want to be 1 minute late ever to anything ever. And I love that. All right. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that I'm right, he's wrong, none of those kinds of things. But for me, one of the things I've developed as a professional in my professional life is, as I recounted a couple of weeks ago, if I'm in a meeting with somebody and I am not done and I need to be fully attentive and fully present with them, then I will be late to whatever comes next. I kind of view it as I don't have 1 foot in and 1 foot out. I'm not keeping an eye on the clock. I'm not thinking about what comes next when I'm in the moment today. And, that's a philosophy that I live by a lot with a lot of different things that I do. And sometimes it causes consternation. Sometimes there's people that they just don't like that. And I'm okay with all that. I guess my point where I'm driving at here is that today, I'm sitting here and I have told Isabella, y'all have never met her, but she's behind the scenes. She's, I'm not sure if she's brains or brawn, which role she plays in this whole thing. But she called me the talent. So we'll just go with that. In the end, she came in and said, hey, I need to record. And I said, I'm good. I'll record today. Problem is that when we were ready to record, I had something very, very important going on. And it is this, if you can hear, that's called hold music. And it's super important phone call for me. And it's something that I can't afford to miss. I'm going to move that away. I have to be here for this phone call. And I need to make sure, should I turn that back down? I need to make sure that should they pick up, that I'm able to jump on the call very quickly and handle my business. So I told Isabella, look, I can't record right now. I'm on hold for this phone call. And Isabella said, let's record with you on hold because this matters. You told me to record and we have to have it. So she told me, and I love this, she said, you need to do an episode, especially after that last one you did, a couple times ago about your chaos theory of keeping your commitments. And I like that. I thought that, she's spot on. She's nailed it. You have to keep your commitments. So I said, we'll do the podcast. I'll sit here on hold. If by chance you see me say, hold on a second, and, we put up that little we'll be right back scene in the middle of the podcast, and you'll know that I had to step away for this call, and I come right back to it. You won't feel a thing. For you, it'll still be the same, 15-minute podcast, but for me, it'll allow me to do two things at one time. So keeping commitments, what does it mean? Look, in our company, in REI Nation, my dad has a couple of sayings that I think are really, really important, and I think they fall perfectly in line with this. And we talk a lot about our core values, and keeping your commitments is not one of our core values, but it's almost like one of those basics that you should understand. For us, keeping our commitments, our integrity, our reputation, our credibility, these things, they're the only things that matter. In the end, we have figured out a way as a company to buy and sell roughly rounded numbers, 1,000 homes a year. And we do that from here in Memphis, Tennessee. Yes, we have our offices in Dallas, and they perform a lot of those functions in Dallas too. But, we got these two offices, Memphis and Dallas, and we buy homes hundreds of miles away from where we're currently located. We manage millions of dollars in renovations from where we are here. We manage those properties on the back end, with all of the main services from here. We work with clients. Greater than 9 out of 10 of our clients live more than 200 miles away from their properties. We have investors in Dallas that prefer to buy Memphis. We have investors in Memphis that prefer to buy in Dallas. We have investors in California that don't care what market it's in. They just want to buy a market that's solid and consistent with a company that's going to be reliable. We have, customers up in New York that say, I only want to buy houses down in Alabama, or I only want to buy houses over in Houston, whatever it ends up being. Out of our clients, less than 50% have ever even met us, much less seen their houses in person. So when you talk about how important credibility is, how important is your reputation? How important is integrity? When you are selling today a portfolio that's worth $1.2 billion worth of real estate to investors who have never seen their houses, many of which have never met you in person, you have to have those things locked down, intact, tight. A big way of doing that, a big way of earning credibility, a big way of keeping your integrity intact and earning this long-term reputation that people can buy. Somebody from New York can buy a house from somebody in Memphis and the house is located in San Antonio. That was unfathomable 10 years ago. Certainly at the level that we're doing it today, but it took focusing on that credibility, that integrity, focusing on our reputation. And how do we do that? I'm pointing to my white wall here by keeping our commitments, keeping our commitments to those that matter most. We've talked about our 4 groups of people. We've talked about our clients. We've talked about our, who are the investors. We've talked about our vendors. We've talked about our residents. We talk about, of course, our team. Well, this was a great example with Isabella coming into me today and saying, hey, we have to do this. Like, in order for her to do her job, I have to do mine. I have to get in front of the camera. I have to get this recorded in order for her to not feel stressed, in order for her to not feel anxious about what she has to do. If I don't do my part and keep my commitment, that causes stress for her. In the business world, that's the same way we view it when it comes to all those 4 groups. If we make a commitment to a vendor to pay them on time, within 7 days of receipt of whatever the policy ends up being, we can't miss that. If we do, we have to own it, live up to it, handle it immediately, and make sure that we don't make the same mistake twice. The same thing goes across the boards. If you tell a team member that, hey, we're going to review this or review that, we're going to I'm going to keep my door open if you ever need to come in and sit down with me. If that's the policy that you have, and then you fail to live up to that commitment, really what you're doing is you're saying that none of your commitments matter at all. And you may be doing it subconsciously. You may not be meaning that that's the message that you want, but that's the message that you're giving. Same thing goes with your clients. If you tell the clients that, hey, we'll stand behind as a 1-year warranty on everything that happens, and yet you don't stand behind that property. Something happens and you say, well, I kind of meant that I would warranty it, but this kind of is in the gray area, so I'm not going to warranty that. You've just lost all your credibility, all of it. I can relate it as well to a resident. Residents matter a lot to us. The resident is what really drives this whole engine. As much as we talk about, maybe it's an investor buying property, it's really not. Because if an investor buys a piece of property that never gets occupied and never produces an income, that was no good. That investor's gone. They're never going to buy again. They're never going to trust you as an investment company. So the resident, getting good residents, keeping them in the properties, meeting their expectations, these matter. And so on the front end with a resident, when we make a commitment to them that when you call, we do reply, we do answer. If we can't answer, we make sure we call back. We make sure that we help you walk through any issue that you may have. And if we have to send out a vendor to do work on your property as a resident, we'll call you back when it's done just to make sure you're satisfied, to make sure they did the job they're supposed to do. Now, if a resident doesn't answer, I can't do anything about that. But the commitment we make to the resident is that we're going to do everything we can to outreach and make sure you are satisfied, that you're getting the experience that you expect as a resident. Heck, that's how we ended up with a 7-year average length of occupancy. I mean, that doesn't happen by happenstance. It doesn't occur because, we stumbled onto it. It occurs because we think about it and we drive it and we make sure that that's the result we're trying to get. How do you do that? You make commitments and you keep them. When Isabella came to me today, and hang on. Nope, we're still on hold. Okay. When Isabella came to me and said, the thing that got me the most about her argument today was that, hey, we need to record this podcast. And of course, there are other times when I tell her, no, I'm not. And it may be that I'm just not feeling it. Like being the talent, I just may not have it in me today. I'm just waiting to see if I can get any reaction from anybody in the room here with me that my head's not this big. If you're listening to me on the show, I do not think that I'm the talent. This is all a joke between us internally. But the guy that has to produce the content, the guy that has to get out there and talk, if I don't do it, she can't do her job. And when she told me she couldn't do her job, she's trying to think 4-6 weeks ahead. She's trying to plan out her schedule. She's got, a system that she uses. And if I'm the person that holds that up, if I fail to meet a commitment, if I told her I would do something and I don't do it, and that causes stress on her, that doesn't work. Think about that in all forms of your business. I know a lot of people out there, you are entrepreneurs and you're listening to us and you're following our journey and trying to see how relatable is it to what you're going through, how relatable are our experiences to what you're trying to build. This is, I think, a big one. When you make a commitment, no matter who you make it to, for us, I told you the 4 stakeholders. If you make a commitment to one of those 4 stakeholders, it's important that you do your best to meet those commitments. And I'm the last person to say that doesn't mean that, that schedules can't change. It doesn't mean that you can't, readjust or reschedule, whatever it ends up being. And I do that quite often. But when a stakeholder tells you that, hey, my sanity relies on this, I have a way in which I operate, and you not keeping your commitment puts me outside the way I operate. As a business owner, no matter who the stakeholder is, you got to step up. You got to take care of that. You got to make sure that everyone around you understands that when it comes to their success, you're all in, you're committed. I thought they were answering. They're not answering. We may make it through the whole podcast without them answering, and then I can go back to hold when we're done. So look, let me try and kind of wrap this thing up here as I get to the end. We built our reputation by watching and looking after all these little things, by a simple rule of we do what we say. I will never forget when a guy stood up and asked me at a conference I was speaking at in Dallas. He said, "Hey, how do you get total buy-in to everything you say from all of your team around you? How do you get people to buy into what you say and buy in that keeping your commitments is important?" And I told him, I said, it's pretty simple, man. I said, we show up every day and we do what we say. And I think that's a nice way to sum up what keeping your commitments means. Show up every day, do what you say you're going to do, live up to the expectation you've set with those around you, no matter what, level of stakeholder they are, no matter what, piece of the pie they exist in your business. Do what you say you're going to do. Keep that commitment. Guys, I really appreciate you staying with me. This was kind of one of those impromptu, off the top. We're going to jump in here and do a quick little podcast without it needing to be said. I just say that I have a great deal of respect for the entire marketing team that we have put together here over the past year. It used to be me. Today it's Heather, Sarah, and Isabella. They are incredible. They produce all the content you see on the website. They produce all the content you see on The Grind. They produce these podcasts. They produce the videos that go on YouTube. They pretty much produce everything. A lot of it has my name on it. So, a lot of times people think that I'm producing it all. And I used to, kind of, but not anymore. I produce very little. It's a fantastic team behind me. So to them, hey, sorry I caused any stress by not keeping all of my commitments to film when I told you I would film, but here I am. I'm doing it. Re-recorded. This was a great session. Thank you for holding me accountable. All right. And guys, until then, commit to the grind. I will see you next Friday. I appreciate everything. Y'all take care.